I'd like to call this October 24th agenda action meeting of the East Brunswick Township Council to order. Would everyone please stand, salute the flag, and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please take your seats. Ms. Loeffler, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Hall? Absent. Councilman McAvoy?
Here.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Here.
Councilwoman Zimbicki? Here. And Council President Wendell?
Here.
Also present, Mayor Brad Cohen?
Here.
Administrator Joseph Criscuolo?
Here.
Township Attorney Michael Baker?
Here.
Thank you all. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as required under Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, by specifying the time, date, location, and to the extent known, the agenda, by posting a copy on the bulletin board located in the main lobby of the East Brunswick Municipal Building, providing a copy to the Home News Tribune and Sentinel newspapers, posting a copy on the Township's website, and by filing a copy in the office of the Township Clerk, which will be entered into the minutes.
Thank you. First item of business tonight is resolution number 17521, a resolution adopting meeting minutes of October 10th, 2022. Can I get a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any discussion on these? Any changes anybody wants to propose? Okay. Seeing none, Ms. Loeffler, would you please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zimbicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Here, yes.
Thank you all.
We're going to start our meeting with some proclamations this evening. First proclamation supporting the second annual Harvest Fest in East Brunswick. Councilwoman Sullivan.
If there's anybody from the coalition, the Arts Coalition, please come on up. Oh, yeah. Do you want me to turn it around? I'm not good at turning it around. I'll turn it. Don't turn it around tonight. Okay, you guys can stand around me. Go on, feel free. This is a proclamation to the East Brunswick Arts Coalition. Whereas the East Brunswick Arts Coalition is chartered as a 501c3 charitable organization, it is organized exclusively for the charitable, educational, and literacy purposes and operates to fundraise, assist, and coordinate the activities of the Township Art Commission, Museum Corporation, Human Relations Council, Historical Society, and Playhouse 22. To promote and further advance the arts of East Brunswick. And whereas the Arts Coalition was created by Mayor Brad J. Cohen and the Township Council on May 14th, 2018, the 12-member board fundraises for arts, cultural activities in a community already known for its diverse range of arts and heritage events. And whereas the East Brunswick Arts Coalition has helped sponsor many programs and events. Some are under the Stars Theater event, Golden 20s Lawn Party, Lunar New Year Celebration, EB Arts Spring Fling, Spread Your Wings Outdoor Butterfly Art Exhibit, EB Indie Drive-In Film Festival, East Brunswick Restaurant Week, and the annual Harvest Festival. And whereas the East Brunswick Arts Coalition has entrusted to spearhead, organize, and fundraise for the future expansion of the East Brunswick Community Arts Center, this most ambitious project is designed to provide the state-of-art and entertainment center for the residents of East Brunswick and the greater Middlesex County region. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Brad J. Cohen, Mayor of the Township of East Brunswick, along with the Township Council, do hereby commend the work of the East Brunswick Arts Coalition and wish them continued success. Given under my hand the Great Seal of the Township of East Brunswick, the 24th day of October in the year 2022, Mayor Brad J. Cohen. And I'm just going to tell you, I just read everything that you all do. I don't know how you all have time to sleep. Would one of you like to come up and speak?
I guess I chose the short straw. Thank you very much for this honor. We were very surprised when it was announced that we would be honored here today. I have a great group with us at the coalition. It kind of shows with all the events and fundraising that we do, all our efforts and everything. I know our families miss us as we do these things, but we all have this one goal, is to make the town better and to promote arts and culture now until the future, into the future.
You don't have exact dates, we can't write it
I know,
down.
right? Yeah. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to work with this group of people and, put together more and support more with the arts and culture.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is a proclamation acknowledging 2022 Extra Mile Day. I don't believe there's anybody here for this. This was just going to be read into the record. Anybody here in regard to Extra Mile Day? All right. 2022 Extra Mile Day. Whereas East Brunswick is a community which acknowledges that a special vibrancy exists within the entire community when its individual citizens collectively go the extra mile in personal effort, volunteerism, and service. And whereas the East Brunswick is a community which encourages its citizens to maximize their personal contribution to the community by giving of themselves wholeheartedly and with total effort, commitment, and conviction to their individual ambitions, family, friends, and community. And whereas East Brunswick is a community which chooses to shine a light on and celebrate individuals and organizations within its community who go the extra mile in order to make a difference and lift up fellow members of their community. And whereas East Brunswick acknowledges the mission of Extra Mile America to create 550 extra mile cities in America and is proud to support Extra Mile Day on November 1st, 2022. Now, therefore, Brad J. Cohen, Mayor of East Brunswick, does hereby proclaim November 1st, 2022 to be Extra Mile Day. I urge each individual in the community to take time on this day to not only go the extra mile in his or her own life, but to also acknowledge all of these who are inspirational in their efforts and commitment to make their organizations, families, community, country, or world a better place. Given under his hand and the Great Seal of the Township of East Brunswick, this first day of November in the year 2022, Mayor Brad J. Cohen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, our next proclamation is proclamation supporting the East Brunswick Public Library nominated for the 2023 National Medal for Museum and Library Services, and that's going to be read by Council Vice President McAvoy.
Anybody from the library?
I don't know. Is there anyone from the library?
Here this evening?
No?
We'll read this into the record then.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Council President. Proclamation, whereas the East Brunswick Public Library has been nominated by Senator Cory Booker for the 2023 National Medal for Museum and Library Service. And whereas the East Brunswick Public Library is unique in that its services are utilized not only by its residents, but also by residents of the entire state of New Jersey. And whereas in 2022, with funding from the American Rescue Plan Act through a grant from the New Jersey State Library, East Brunswick Public Library launched New Jersey Health Connect at your library, a program that provides 454 free iPads preloaded with health, literacy, information, telehealth apps, and career resources to the 151 libraries and library systems throughout the state, making them accessible to millions of New Jersey residents. And whereas for more than a decade, the East Brunswick Public Library has been a leader in health literacy research, creating its own health and wellness information website just for the health of it, which has received funds from the National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. And whereas the library has also received funding from the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development in 2022, launching an English Immersion Institute for job seekers during the summer of 2022, which was opened to residents of all surrounding communities here in New Jersey. And whereas during the COVID-19 pandemic, the East Brunswick Public Library virtual offerings were opened to all, regardless of where they lived, and often attracted people from throughout the state of New Jersey and beyond. Now therefore be it resolved that I, Mayor Brad J. Cohn of the Township of East Brunswick, along with the Town Council, do hereby recommend the East Brunswick Public Library for the National Medal for Museum and Library Services, given under my hand and the Great Seal of the Township of East Brunswick, this the 24th day of October in the year 2022. The Honorable Mayor Brad J. Cohn.
First, I'd just like to say congratulations to our library and all the great things they do, but
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight how big of a deal this actually is. There really is only one, actually, I think there's 3 awards, one for large libraries like the library in New York. You have a medium-sized library and very small libraries, but there's only one in the country that gets that. I think it's been decades since it's ever been awarded in New Jersey. So this is a big deal to be nominated for that. And when you think about a town like ours, which has for decades revolved around a commitment to the arts, to its educational system, and to its library, it's fitting that in this year the senator chose to nominate East Brunswick, and I don't think it's an accident that the nomination came under the heels of the library's expansion and grant that allowed it to provide those iPads throughout the state, which was loaded with all the health information that's been garnered right here in East Brunswick. I could tell you as a physician, I don't really go into the Robert Wood or St. Peter's libraries anymore because I can get everything I need right here in the East Brunswick Public Library. And many of my physician colleagues do that as well. And they've committed all of that now to these iPads, which were distributed throughout the entire state, so that during the pandemic, when it became obvious that there's such a disparity between health services, between those who, based on the ability to afford good health care, relied upon a lot of the information that was gained right here in East Brunswick to be able to be provided free to people in communities where it was more difficult to get information. So I think it's a great honor. I certainly hope that we do win that. That would be I think an order of magnitude hard to comprehend, but I do think it's a great honor to have been nominated even at this point. So kudos to the library and the efforts they've made to really put us on the map.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Next up, we're going to have a couple of presentations. We're going to start with a redevelopment and pilot agreement presentation by Mike Hughes, the Executive Director of the East Brunswick Redevelopment Agency.
Mayor and Council President, appreciate everyone's time this evening. I was told that Dan Losik's presentation has 36 different slides. I can assure you that mine only has 10, so hopefully that's a good harbinger of things to come. I was asked to give a little update here on redevelopment, the process that we undertake here in East Brunswick, a little bit of the history and timeline to how we got to today, some of the incentives that we use, and what you can expect in the coming months and years ahead. First, I think it's important to just kind of set the table with what it is that we do, how we operate, and what our mandate actually is. So our role of the redevelopment agency, which is a separate entity from the Township Council, it was instituted back in 2017 when the agency first was created, came into shape later on that year, and has really hit its stride, I will say selfishly, in the last 4 years with me in the chairman's, with me in the executive director's seat. But we have essentially a very narrow scope. Our role is to shepherd projects through the redevelopment process. We are not the economic development agency. We stay narrowly focused on redevelopment areas that are prescribed within the Township of East Brunswick. So like I said, we only deal with those plots of land that are deemed by the council, the planning board, and an independent planner as areas in need of redevelopment. There's very specific objective criteria that's spelled out in state statute of what actually constitutes an area in need of redevelopment. There are some that can come to the top of all of our heads here that we'd love to see something different at, but do not fit the specific criteria. Has to be blighted. There's conditions that apply to water and sewer connections. It is, an age of the property, usefulness, whether it's being used to its highest and best use. There's a number of criteria that are looked at. There are planners and architects that all they do is studies of redevelopment areas to find what meets and what does not meet the criteria. In terms of operations, we don't create policy here at the redevelopment agency. I had my time creating policy for 8 years on the Township Council. We now implement the policy solutions and legislation that are passed by the governing body. You all sitting behind the dais are the elected officials. The public entrusts you to create the policy. Our job at the redevelopment agency is to enact those and bring those plans to life. I've had 1 foot in and 1 foot out of between the public life and corporate America, but if you want to equate it to corporate America, which is dangerous to do in government, really think of this agency as the project managers and the governing body as the executive board. We are here to shepherd these important projects through every stage of the process, whether that is ideation and visioning for what a redevelopment plan looks like, through combing through RFPs and selecting master redevelopers, all the way through to negotiating redevelopment agreements and financial agreements, to demolition and shepherding through the permitting and land use process, and then ultimately when something gets built at the end of the day and we see that plan actually come to fruition by a tangible building. Our focus areas are in areas of need of redevelopment. Like I said, those have objective criteria. Not all land we wish to see redevelopment qualifies, but if land does qualify as an area in need of redevelopment, tools and incentives are unlocked that the council and the redevelopment agency can use in order to spur investment and development in these areas. So why redevelopment? Why not just go through the normal land use process and you will see projects come and all of your wishes will come true? We know that that's not the case. I know personally, I was elected in 2010, wanted to see something done to the old Wiz and Kids R Us shopping center over there, and we just figure someone will come through, someone will have an idea, they'll want to buy it, knock it down, and something different will go there. Anything's better than tumbleweeds running through it. Not the case, because you're dealing with sites that have severe remediation, you're dealing with sites that are obsolete, you're dealing with a stretch of road that has 25 curb cuts where really there should be only a handful. There need to be some mechanisms that the governing body or redevelopment agency can use in order to spur that investment and development in their municipality. And that process is redevelopment. There are not many incentives or tools that New Jersey state statute entrusts to municipalities themselves. There's a lot of talk on home rule. You can do a lot as a member of the Township Council, but when it comes to land use, your hands are significantly tied by what state statute actually allows you to do. The legislature actually, in their wisdom in the late 60s, passed a law that created a redevelopment process. And once you designate areas in need of redevelopment, that unlocks those tools and incentives that are otherwise unavailable to you. Those tools, incentives, options that you have vary. Number one is you can negotiate now off-site improvements. You can mandate that a developer widen or install a jug handle. You can have multi-use trails that tie into the existing networks that are in the town. You can have them widen roads, build bus shelters, build traffic signals, retime traffic signals, all available to you in the negotiation process when you undergo redevelopment. Number two is you streamline the land use process. A redevelopment zone makes the land use process more efficient and predictable. Instead of dealing with planning and zoning boards, overlays, and going back through 6 revisions of a master plan, you get to create, as part of the redevelopment process, redevelopment zoning, and you can have very strict criteria in a redevelopment zone on what can and cannot go there. Everything from uses to building heights, to how the buildings look, what materials are used, what the facades should look like, what should be the overarching theme that brings everything together. That's done through the redevelopment process and completely makes the land use process far easier. You're dealing with applications that come in front of planning board when you go through the redevelopment process that at times need only one bulk variance. Unheard of when you're talking about some projects that are $500 million. And number three is there are financial incentives that can be used and deployed. Fees, pilot agreements, which I'll get into in a little bit, that's probably the number one tool that municipalities have in their toolbox when it comes to redevelopment. So what are pilots and why are they used? I think on all sides there are a lot of misnomers regarding redevelopment, pilot agreements, and what they are, and I think they're wrongly, people who are opposed, this is a giveaway, this isn't good, it's not fair. People who are in favor of them blindly think that they should be applied in every single situation. Government and redevelopment is no different, is not black and white. There are many shades of gray, and so I think what I want to go into here is just some of the nuance of what goes into a pilot agreement, how we decide whether one gets used in a particular situation, and what makes them a useful tool and incentive for municipalities to use. So number one here is you have to meet some criteria. Oftentimes here in East Brunswick, we try to meet all three. Number one, in order statutorily to use a pilot, in a redevelopment area, it has to be used to eliminate blight from obsolete buildings and functions. Number two is it has to be used to spur investment into plots of land that otherwise may go undeveloped or remain vacant by providing some certainty into the cost structure moving forward over the course of the next 10, 15, 30 years for someone making a big investment into the community. You'll see, just as an example, my example I used earlier of the Whiz and the Gap over there. We had 10 years to really, over that, really 15, to see if anyone was going to come, swoop in, put a few $100 million into that site to clean it up and build something different. It wasn't happening. Not even a few nibbles on the fishing line. Number three is it restores a tax base and revenue stream into the municipality, which ultimately benefits all residents. But there are common misconceptions on what a pilot is and how it works. Number one is, how do we know a pilot is necessary? Take away my example of the Whiz and the Gap shopping center, where there just isn't any other development. What will spur an investment into the community? What would the normal traditional tax structure be? What would a pilot agreement actually net out for the municipality? Those are all done on very complex financial models, but that we hire as a redevelopment agency professionals who do just that. We have real estate appraisers, we have financial analysts, we have tax modelers, we have experts when it comes to housing, retail, and industrial uses to see whether this investment is necessary. Is this a project that's going to get built no matter what? In which case, probably don't need a pilot there. Is this a project that's going to require an incentive, by definition, incentivizing someone to do something they otherwise would not? Then maybe it's a program worth looking at. 2 is, what are the impacts to schools? And this is an important one because it reflects, I think, an understanding of how property taxation works in New Jersey and how tax collection works in New Jersey. Right now, a municipality everywhere in the state is the collector of your taxes. We can all point to the tax bill. I'm sure if you are at this meeting, you have some knowledge and understanding and have seen the pie chart of 66% goes to the school district, and I'm going to use round numbers because I haven't been behind the dais in a while. About 15-20% goes to the municipality. The rest goes to the county and the fire districts, depending on where you live and how your ratios are equalized. The municipality collects, though, 100% of that revenue. When you are at, 1313 Mockingbird Lane and you're writing out your check of your property tax bill, you aren't dividing it by 66% and sending that to the school district. You're not dividing it by 20 to send that to the municipality. You send one check over to the municipality, and the municipality, essentially, while oversimplifying things, basically writes a check to every other taxing entity that gives them the money their budget requests or asks for. So again, using round numbers, say the municipality collects $100 million, the school budget is $66 million, the municipality writes the school district a check for $66 million. It is the exact same with a pilot. The money is collected by the municipality, more money than would be traditionally allotted for the municipality using that pie chart. So we have more to work with to begin with, and the schools, the fire district, the library, the county are all made whole in the end. Secondly, there is nothing that precludes a municipality, in case pilot collections are up and we see a healthy revenue stream, from giving even more money to schools because of the infusion of dollars. You see that in other towns around the state of New Jersey, up the road in Woodbridge. They've done just that. And then it becomes an additional revenue stream into the school district that doesn't rely on their budget, the 2% cap, and isn't a question of priorities that the school district needs to set between hiring staff, doing upgrades to buildings, or expanding the footprint. So that's a plus as well. The third, I think, indicator of what the impact truly is because the municipality is the tax collector, when a tax appeal is filed, the municipality is on the hook for 100% of that tax appeal. If, again, using some round numbers, if there's a $10 million tax appeal, Council President Wendell and Mayor Cohen aren't calling up the school district and going, you got overcharged $6.5 million, I'm going to need that back. That statutorily we can't do it. Ethically, we probably wouldn't do it as a municipality anyway. But since we can't do that, this township actually bears the brunt of tax appeals. So when there is a bad year in terms of property valuation, like there was in 2009, 2010, and 11, where the economy took a dip, there was a recession, tax appeals raise up and really blow the municipality's budget, especially when you're subject to the 2% cap. A pilot agreement, being just that, outside of the normal tax structure, gives the municipality some money to really set aside for those worst-case scenarios of tax appeals, so they're not having to make that up through the budget. And secondarily, on the improvements to the land, there is no tax appeal process for it in a pilot agreement. It's only on the land tax, which is a very, very, very small percentage of what goes into a property valuation. It is mostly the improvements that you make onto the land. So again, that really insulates the township as well. 3, how do we ensure this isn't a giveaway to developers? Is we have an objective criteria and objective process with which we go with. Number 1 is there's financial modeling done of, can this project succeed, thrive, and be built without a pilot agreement? No one, I think, on the Township Council, with the knowledge I have of them, is ever really looking to leave money on the table, whether it comes to trying to find grants or other things, we're not in the business of leaving money on the table. So a pilot is used when other avenues don't necessarily work. And then lastly, is this unfair to other business and residents? I would very strongly argue that it's not. I would love to have more incentive programs. I'm sure everyone on the council would love to offer tax incentives to every resident of the township, and if you improve your house, you don't have to pay for the improvements on it in your property taxes for a few years. Unfortunately, the legislature of the state of New Jersey and New Jersey statute disagrees with that. This is really the only mechanism we have to inspire and ultimately create new investment into redevelopment areas in the town. Additionally, when redevelopment areas get done, there is a waterfall effect on the surrounding businesses. It is the hope that when areas get redeveloped, like Route 18 in East Brunswick, it will have a positive impact on the surrounding businesses. There's no reason why it would not, and you see that in other places throughout the state. This is not a novel process that we are embarking on as the first of its kind. There's been success stories other places. It's a matter of being deliberate, thoughtful, and understanding the process and following that process that leads to success. So now that I've gone through everything, I want to give 3 examples where we do have pilot agreements here in the municipality. Granted by the Township Council in 2 ordinances, as all financial agreements for pilot agreements must be approved with, and were recommended by the redevelopment agency to do just that. The first I'll speak to is 39 Edgeboro Road. This is a 500,000 square foot industrial site that FedEx has occupied now for a little over a year now, I think, probably even more than that, 16, maybe 18 months or so. Great building. This is a property on Edgeboro Road where it's prior use, light industrial. We as the township took in about $80,000 on the entire site. Developer of industrial space had come to us, said, hey, you know, I've got a tenant, can't tell you who it is right now. We'd like to do a 500,000 square foot industrial use on Edgeboro Road. Interested, but you know, there's obviously competing interests in that throughout the state, because you can go right down to 8A, where they've used redevelopment and incentives to great success in building industrial sites over there. You can go down to 7A, or you can go over just to Heller at exit 10. So these sites don't come around very often, and we have an industrial corridor right off of the turnpike, which really is significantly underutilized. And we decided to enter into negotiations for this facility right here, this FedEx site. Like I said, went from $80,000 in traditional taxes to $800,000 now with a pilot agreement. Low impact, obviously. It is a industrial site, it's FedEx, but not only has it now employed a number of workers. It's one of the first sites in the state of New Jersey where they are outfitting with infrastructure for their ultimate last mile electric vehicle delivery. But they also, it's such a success, they have then purchased a adjoining lot that was never on the tax rolls at all, that was owned by the Improvement Authority. I think it was the Improvement Authority, not the Utility Authority, which now is added on to our tax records, which now we get land tax from as well. So really great success story. It's a thriving business back there. It's busy all the time, super futuristic. If you ever have a chance to look inside and see what's going on there, really great work, and one of the first deals we were able to put through from inception to completion as a redevelopment agency. Next, you have 110 Tice's Lane, the old Wonder Bread factory, which sat 10% occupied probably for the last 15 to 20 years of its existence. Again, this property, when it was fully occupied in its heyday, provided to the municipality, just the municipality, about $200,000 a year. Judge, you might say it's probably a little less than 1 tax point. With the redevelopment plan that we were able to put in place, with negotiations for a redevelopment agreement and a financial agreement, this site now, once it is built, will generate $2 million to the municipality. Basically a 10-fold increase there. Again, property sat vacant for a decade and a half, 10% used really. It had one tenant, which was a very low intensity use back there, which will now be transformed and ultimately be a net positive for our tax rolls, for our property taxpayers, and for everyone included. You have additionally off-site improvements where the paving and widening Hart's Lane, Tice's Lane, even past Hart's Lane from University down to Route 18 will be wider. You'll additionally have the tie-ins to the multi-use trails throughout the town, so there'll be a safe place for people to bike, rollerblade, walk, go for a jog. And then lastly, they are paying for an improved traffic signal at the corner of Renee and Tice's Lane, as well as the retiming for traffic signals at Route 18 and Tice's. So all the traffic lights will be intelligent, speaking to one another, and really be state-of-the-art to eliminate some of the traffic holdup you even see today through some outdated and obsolete signaling. And Route 18. I used to call this area 2A and 3A, but I think that for a town council meeting where I think more people are watching that are not as plugged into the process as myself, I will just say Route 18. This is essentially what you will see that is at the current rubble today of what was the Wiz and the Gap, Barnes & Noble, and head to toe, if I really want to date myself. This is a mixed-use development being built in 2 or more phases by Russo Development and River Development that ultimately will transform really the gateway to East Brunswick on Route 18. This is an area that we don't need to wonder if incentives needed to be used there, because we went decades without seeing any investment into the property itself. You had the roof caving in of some instances, and we're able to use redevelopment here. We had condemnation attached to the redevelopment area, but as I've always said to the Township Council, and as I said when we had originally passed the ordinance approving condemnation when I was sitting up there, that is really a last resort. We are looking to exhaust every avenue of negotiation before we go down the condemnation path. It's another tool that municipalities have, but just because you have that in your quiver doesn't mean you necessarily need to shoot that arrow. And we've proven through this process that we really have not. Negotiations have been concluded with all the property owners within Phase 1, that small area, where everyone, I think, has been treated more than fairly. I don't think anybody, any property owner in that area got under 30% higher than their appraised value. Some of them also have received from the developer additional monies associated with moving their business if they choose to do that, or just money to close up their books. And if, in some cases people are looking to get out, they have, it was owned by an estate, they want a place to retire in Florida, and this is their way to do that. So this site generated, even in its heyday when it was 100% occupied, a little over $1 million to the municipality is what was generated here. After this pilot is fully phased in, you're looking at over $4 million, about $4.5 million annually to the township on this site, which, if a tax point is $200,000, you're looking at almost 20 cents to the municipality that's going to be coming in every year off this site. This, in particular, was subject to 8 years of property tax appeals that have just been rolled over year over year over year, which you could have continued seeing. The sale of that property to Russo Development put an end to the property tax appeal. We now have a very clear indicator of what the revenue will be each and every year as it ramps up, and ultimately that money can go to property tax relief. It can go to a number of initiatives within the township, as ever the governing body chooses to do within their budget, but ultimately it is a productive property that is generating revenue, that is tied in really to the community. As part of the redevelopment process, I know in the visioning process that Mayor Cohen started before I was even a member of the redevelopment agency, it was very important for this not to be something great for new folks who move into East Brunswick. We're a great town. There's a lot to do here, but we want to make sure it is a destination and a net positive for the individuals who already live here in East Brunswick. And with all the public amenities, dog park, amphitheater, tie-ins to the multi-use trail I talked about that we're having 110 Tices do, they're doing another multi-use trail that'll run through Renee Road. They are repaving and reorienting Renee Road as it runs through the development. They are repaving Lake Avenue as a condition of the redevelopment process. They are providing transit incentives as part of the redevelopment process, and we are working in partnership to see this $500 million investment take shape in East Brunswick. There probably has not been an investment that large in East Brunswick, probably ever. So it is a large endeavor. It is one we take very seriously, and is one that we know has to succeed. And that's why we move slowly but deliberately through the process. And to give you just an insight into the speed, this particular project, you had lawsuits stemming from, was this area designated an area in need of development lawfully and legally? Does it fit that objective criteria that the state statute provides? With COVID and a host of other judicial delays, that case did not get decided until late February of this year, in which it was ruled in the township's favor, that we did everything by the book, we dotted our I's, we crossed our T's. There was absolutely an area in need of redevelopment. It was blighted. There had been no investment there. It was an absolute, it was obsolete structures, not seeing new tenants move in at all. So we had gotten that ruling back in late February. You're looking in the span of 6 months, really, till the end of August. All properties were acquired, which was multiple rounds of negotiations with people on the value of their property and what they want to do. You had permits and hard engineering that had to be done in terms of ingress, egress, all of the electrical and utility work that goes into it, all of the floor plans for every single piece of this structure had to go to the fire districts for their approval to just take a look at the exit strategies, everything like that, which is a very long process in and of itself. That's all completed by the end of August, 6 months later. Within 2 weeks after that, they're in front of the planning board to receive approval. They're approved by the planning board. 2.5, 3 weeks later, they have a demolition permit, and the buildings are completely knocked down over there, just in the span of last 3 weeks since they started demolition, a little less. So while it takes a lot of time to get to that point, the guardrails are off now, and they're really off to the races to make something really innovative, nice, and something the township can be proud of there. I probably overpromised with how brief I was going to be when I took the lectern, but I hope I gave somewhat of a more clear and nuanced picture of what redevelopment is, what the process looks like, and how we go about it here.
Any questions from anyone on council?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes, for that comprehensive report. Appreciate that. How about the buildings that still stand on the outside of the Vermella fence? Mike. How about there's, I think, 3 buildings?
Yep. So they're going to be the next ones to come down, just as part of that negotiation. Nice. Was an exit ramp and a fuse from which, to leave the property, get their affairs in order, what they wanted. Some people wanted to leave quicker than others. So once everyone's out, have a chance to go in there, do any remediation, which on those sites really isn't much, and those will be the next to have the fence around them and come down.
Great. So it's not like we're going to have that eyesore just sticking out. That's part of
the whole point, especially of the Route 18 redevelopment, is to have a cohesive look and a cohesive plan that runs through that entire redevelopment area. It is purposely done to not look piecemeal. It will be one unified piece of property that once it is complete, you won't realize where the property lines ever used to be.
And when doing my homework on Russo, I come across the Vermella style of apartment complexes. And then when you go on the Russo homepage, you go on their website, you see Vermella, Garfield, Vermella, Woodbridge, Vermella, whatever. When do you think we are going to be on their webpage as Vermella East Brunswick, and then we can really show people
Probably when I call their webmaster tomorrow.
Okay, then why don't you, when you leave here, give them a buzz.
Yeah.
Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Any other questions from anyone on council? Mr. Hughes, thank you.
Thanks, appreciate it. I'll leave you all to talk about water now.
Yeah. Next, we have a presentation on our water utility and some of the interlocal agreements we have and other things with other municipalities. How you doing, Mr. Losick?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Council President and Mayor and Council for having me tonight.
It always goes in the, you're always upside down the first time you do it.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Losick. I'm Director of Public Works and the Water and Sewer Utility. Last week, I did a presentation for Friends of the East Brunswick Library, as well as Friends of the Environmental Commission and the East Brunswick Sustainability Task Force. So I'm going to kind of give an overview, basically, of what I did there, and it's a comprehensive overview of the water quality in East Brunswick, what we do in the water utility, our interlocal agreements, and some of the projects we have, and funding and things of that nature. A little bit more lengthy than Mr. Hughes in terms of slides. I apologize for that. We'll try to go through it relatively quickly. So we are responsible to provide safe drinking water to the community that meets the quality or exceeds the standards set by the EPA and the Department of Environmental Protection in New Jersey. That is our main mission, that we're not concerned with how water tastes. We just have to make sure it's safe to drink. That's the mission of our water utility. So how do water systems work? They're generally broken down to 3 different components: where the water comes from, how the water is treated, and then how the water is stored and then delivered to either a home or a business. Over the past few days, I came across some ordinances that were pretty old about the source of our water. Originally, the water from our township was brought to us by the Borough of South River, and you see that was from 1928. So originally, we got water from Borough of South River. Then in 1931, an ordinance was passed to enter into an agreement with the city of Perth Amboy to get water from an area known as the Runyon watershed, which is down near the historic section in Sayreville and Old Bridge. I'll go through these a little quickly here. So this is a map I found, too, of the oldest representation of our water system. This is from 1935. As part of some requirements later, I'll point out in the presentation, we are tasked with providing all the ages of all of our water mains in town and providing that information to DEP, and as I'll go over a little later, in our Water Accountability Act. So you can see we're, let's see, pointer here, down this area here, if we can, I don't know if we can, it's not laser pointer on here, sorry. Down this area here was the Runyon watershed near the historic section. Water's fed through the historic section here, President Street's here, up Old Bridge Turnpike, all the way out to Milltown and Milltown Road, and then up to West Prospect Street. So that was the extent of the water system back in '35. So water regulations and water rates are nothing new. They were adopted by ordinance in 1934, so it's a little older than I may have expected at that point. In 1950, we changed our water source to a groundwater source across the street here, pretty much over on the corner of Ruse Lane and New Brunswick Avenue, where we had our own filter station on Ruse Lane and groundwater wells. So we were a groundwater system at that point. We standardized connections in 1950 by ordinance. And in 1955, we had our first conservation ordinance for conserving water. So the water utility, the distribution system consists of about 240 miles and 3 storage tanks to supply water to our residential commercial customers, as well as meeting firefighting requirements. Those storage tanks allow us to buffer demand on the system, so we have supply, or keep it for an emergency, or to have water on hand for firefighting requirements, as well as use it for gravity feeding our system. We also sell to 3 other municipalities, bulk sales. That is Spotswood, Helmetta, and South River. And our average amount of usage per day for the whole entire year, if you average it out, was about 5.3 million gallons per day in 2021. And little side note, it's about a little over half a cent per gallon for tap water, which kind of led into my presentation I did last week. So it's a pretty economical, our tap water. So this is our distribution system here. Showing, oops, there we go. A little hard to see. These are our water towers, the one by the mall, water tower on Fern Road, and then we have a 10 million gallon tank at our Tices Lane booster station. So our interconnections. So we sell to the 3 municipalities. You see Helmetta Water on top. We provide water for the entire borough of Helmetta. We used to supply to Kimberly-Clark Corporation. They are kind of out of business at this point, so we no longer sell to them. We do have 2 interconnections with the borough of Spotswood. Those could be used for emergency, but also we use those for bulk sales. Spotswood has a groundwater source, which they could supply water to us if need be in an emergency. South River, same thing. We have 2 interconnects with them. They are a groundwater source as well, and they can provide water to us in an emergency. We currently have the New Brunswick interconnect on Riders Lane in Clifton, which is near Cook College, which was one of our supplemental supplies back in the late 1950s. We are working on an additional interconnect at Burnett Street, which is by Tower Center, currently in conjunction with the county on the new bridge that they're constructing there, in order to give us a 12-inch line there for emergency use. So in situations like we had in July 3rd of 2014, we can have a plentiful supply of water when we had the large water break on Riders Lane there, and we wouldn't have to worry about having a supply, and would help meet our demands at those times. We also have an interconnect with Milltown near the Grove on Milltown Road there, as well as South Brunswick on Cranberry Road. And we also supply, we have a wheeling supply to Middlesex Water, who treats our water. We also sell water back to them because we are the only water main underneath the Raritan River. So they give us water treated, and then we give water back to them at a mere profit. So the Drinking Water Act of '74 made standards for contaminants and health-based decisions on what those contaminants could be limited to. They have maximum contaminant limits, is what MCL stands for. And then there are secondary limits, which are not health-based, which are more, like I was speaking about before, in terms of taste or maybe an odor or things like that. Does not have anything to do with the ability for you to drink the water safely, will do nothing to you to harm you, which is a voluntary standard. And in 1996, there was an amendment to provide source protection for the various types of surface or groundwater. And the number 2 one on there is called CCR, which is a Consumer Confidence Report. So the township and all other agencies are required to post a consumer confidence report We have it on our website, and is available to everyone to look at to see how we did on our testing, to see if we had any deficiencies, what we test for, and basically to give people the health report of the system as a whole. And with that amendment also, we were required to have licensed operators, so people were getting continuing education to stay current with any new contaminants or testing or emerging issues in the world of water and how to operate systems and disinfect and transmission and distribution, all those things. So we're required to have licensed operators. What are the two water sources? So we have groundwater, which of course sound things, underneath, and surface water. So at one point, the township was a groundwater system. We then went to a hybrid of groundwater and surface, and in 1985 we went to all surface water, mainly because in the mid-'80s there was a problem with our Farrington aquifer that we're located in, and they put a limit on how much water you can take out because there was a groundwater and saltwater intrusion into the aquifer. So they were limiting how much water you can take out of there. That's when we decided to go to the surface water supply. In a moment, I'll show you where that is. And basically, New Jersey's supply as a whole is 75% from surface water. So the New Jersey water supply was basically created to have a dependable supply for central Jersey to somewhat address the issue that I discussed with the saltwater intrusion and the rest of the area. They are a state agency, but they run a lot of this system that we'll see here in a minute. So we are in the Raritan Basin. The water supplies system. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, there's a Spruce Run Reservoir, which is an on-river reservoir, which is part of their system. And then the Round Valley Reservoir was created by damming up the natural topography to make it a reservoir that could be used for water supply. The Delaware Raritan Canal was around for a long time and was utilized by the Pennsylvania Railroad Company. It then became a state park, and then it went over to the New Jersey Water Supply Authority, and this is where we get our water from. It's surface water. So our intake is near it's off of Route 18, near basically the New Jersey Transit area where the bridge goes over, the rail bridge goes over Route 18. Here's a little about the Spruce Run Reservoir, how much it can hold, 11 billion gallons on stream. And this is the Round Valley Reservoir, which is a pretty nice place, which is also used for recreation too. People can use it for boating, non-motorized, similar to the Farrington Lake.
Sweet.
So, like I spoke about the intake. So after it gets, we have the intake pipe. Where does our water go to? It goes to the Carl J. Olson Water Treatment Plant. And the picture you see there is a $55 million investment that Middlesex Water Company made in order to create an ozone disinfection system, which we'll see here. So our water comes in from the canal. The raw water is pumped up to the station, and the whole system is gravity fed, so they don't use any power, which makes it more economical. We have, let's see if we can. There we go. Okay, here, there's a caustic that's put in to vary the pH. That goes to some mixers, and then you have which you have a flocculation point, which makes things coagulate, so it'll separate out into this super pulsator. It's clean water be on top. You have any kind of sediment and stuff goes to the bottom. This was the ozone system that they put in, and ozone is used as a primary disinfectant. rather than chlorine. Chlorine can have, at high doses, could have a give off what they call trihalomethanes as a byproduct. So if they can eliminate that, there's less likelihood of that occurring, of those trihalomethanes. After that, it goes through a sand and anthracite filter. They then change the pH a little bit more, and they add something in here called orthophosphate. So orthophosphate is recognized by the CDC as the most effective way to prevent corrosion in pipes. So it is put into the water, safe to drink, and that will create a coating basically on pipes and make it more of a less likely to have any kind of interaction with the metals in the water, with the materials that are there. So it's, you hear about things of lead potential, that eliminates that. It causes a coating on there, so that is not in contact with the water. So it's been put in the water for a long time to prevent that corrosion. Goes to a clear well, and then goes to finished water, and then gets sent to our pumping station on Tyser's Lane. At the station, we have, it's manned 24/7, 365. We have people that are approved to sample water for quality standards. We do not treat any water in the township. All our water is treated by Middlesex Water Company. It's called finished water that they send to us. And everything we test with is certified equipment that meets the manufacturer's specifications. So we're required to do 52 samples a month, 13 locations, 1 each week, and that is sent to an independent lab. We do not get the results. We cannot doctor the results. Those results then go right to DEP. It might be hard to see on here. Here's some of the here's the 13 locations that we take the samples at, all at the extremities of the system. You want to have water that has been in the system the longest in order to get, we're looking for the worst results. You want to have results that are indicative of all parts of the system. So if it's at the extremities, you're going to have your worst results. We have water quality parameters to do, and one is the orthophosphate there, one for alkalinity and pH, and that is once per 10 sites per quarter. Also, bi-weekly, we have at the entry point of our system, orthophosphate and pH sample. Every Wednesday, we take our own samples just to double check what the lab's going to have the next week. Also, daily sampling. We do have chlorine levels, chlorine residual, fluoride levels, pH, and water temperature. And that's 3 times a day, each shift. We also have online monitoring. We monitor fluoride levels, pH, chlorine residual, and temperature through our SCADA system to make sure that everything is like we think it should be. Lead and copper program. We take 30 samples through NJDEP approved sites, and that is sent to the same approved lab for testing. And once per year, we have to do iron and manganese at the end of our distribution line. That's what I was talking about before with a byproduct, is disinfection byproducts, trihalomethanes. Those are tested quarterly at 4 locations. This is a new emerging type, we'll say contaminant, PFOAs and things basically from firefighting foam and from Teflon has been showing up in groundwater and surface water, and New Jersey was the first state to set a standard to make sure that we are under that 13 parts per trillion or 14 parts per trillion, but New Jersey was the first state to set a standard on that, and I think that's going to get more stringent as the years go along. We are part of what they call UCMRs for unregulated contaminants. These are things that they're looking for, like the PFOAs that might become more present in drinking water. There's only so much water in the planet, so as we discard things, and that has an effect on our environment. So we have to be aware of those things, and if they show up in groundwater and surface water, and we have to figure out ways how to combat that, and that's through the DEP. The township does fluoridate their water, and I did find in the last few days the ordinance that made that in 1954. We've been fluoridating since 1954, so my slide is incorrect on top there. I did not edit it, but added the note down there on the ordinance. So we've been doing it for a long time, and that is the only thing we really technically treat in the township. So I spoke before about Water Accountability Act. We're required to replace our water mains on a 150-year cycle. So some of those mains are getting up there in years, and we're required to have cybersecurity standards, and we have to exercise all of our valves within a certain period and make sure that all of our hydrants are functioning in town. We are currently flushing our hydrants now. We will be finished at the end of the week. And the main purpose for flushing hydrants is to test them to make sure that they'll meet the firefighting demands. Also to remove sediment or mineral buildup that may be in the mains to make sure our water quality remains high. So we have another oversight board, is the Water Policy Advisory Board, which I thought was created in '82, but again, I went back and found some old, going through some old ordinances, not necessarily the same thing. We had an East Brunswick Township Water Advisory Committee back in 1962. Now, the '82 version was basically a policy board when we were deciding of which water source to use when we had the issue with the saltwater intrusion, whether we should stay with the groundwater, try to find a surface water. Ultimately, the board came up with the idea of going with the surface water source that we do use today. The board meets every other month. We review lab reports, customer complaints, and discuss projects. Last week we did a survey as part of the presentation I did, and this was related to single-use water bottles, and one of the issues people had mentioned that maybe they don't feel comfortable using tap water. So we wanted to ensure that our drinking water from the tap is quality water and safe to drink. Most of the people in the survey, 45%, majority, use tap water. Large majority have a refrigerator unit for they filter their tap water. Some people use a pitcher filter, or some people use a faucet-style filter. Single-use bottles consumed in a week. I was pleased to see 50%. I wish that would tick up higher, being part of the recycling community as well. I wish we would have an increase in the amount of people who do not use single-use bottles. If you do use tap water, some people on the survey came back and said it had a taste that they didn't like. And like I discussed before, we cannot treat for taste. Taste is a preference for each person. If you choose to have a different taste, there are filters that can remove that and make that suit your palate. And taste does vary upon the source. So if you have a groundwater source as opposed to a surface water source, surface water sometimes can pick up different organics, groundwater can pick up different minerals. But if you are interested in having a filter, you can go to NSF, which is an independent organization, and you can look up what you would like to remove from your water, and they will give you some guidelines on the type of filter that might work best for you based upon what you're looking for in terms of your water and your taste. So this is a picture that was sent to us a couple of years ago from the recycling end of things, which I would like to eliminate. So what did we do as a township? we have bottle fillers in all of our, or most of our locations, and so far the township has saved 156,000 bottles. So we've reduced a lot. We keep our employees hydrated, especially the ones that are working out in the warm conditions in the summer, of trying to maintain our roadways. We don't need them to be dehydrated. But this is what our steps were for trying to combat the single-use bottles. We can ensure that our employees or don't purchase those and are trying to take advantage of this ourselves. And that's my presentation. Sorry it was a little long.
That's all right. Very informative.
Any questions?
Any questions from anybody up here? Any council questions? We'll go to Vice President McElroy.
Mr. Losick, once again, thank you for the complete and comprehensive report, because it really gives a clear idea of what's going on in the township, and a lot of our residents don't know a lot of the figures and facts that you have presented. However, would you just briefly review for the council as well as the residents, because I've tried to do my best, about the new water meters that are going in everyone's home?
Yeah, so the water meter project we have currently going on. It is about 26% complete for the small meters. And the genesis of it was to go to an AMI system, which would be an automated metering information. So we could gather the results better. We don't need meter readers. We can poll it. Perhaps in the future, maybe we can do a monthly billing rather than a quarterly billing, in which case, hypothetically, if you had a leaky toilet and your cycle was 90 days long, the leaky toilet happened on day 2, you would know probably for another 88 days that you had a leaky toilet. With this system, when we have software implemented with it, it would be similar to the old cell phone systems where you're almost out of minutes. You can check your water usage. You can see how you're doing on your usage. If it's abnormal, you can identify those things a lot quicker. Also, it would allow us to kind of get the information without the use of meter readers.
So I said 22% from the dais at our last meeting. And when do you expect to be completed with that project?
Well, it's a little slow going right now. We wish it would be, I was hoping like 18 months in totality. So we've been about 6 months now, only 27%, so we'll need an uptick. And, you know, I like to use the term Goldilocks pricing. We're not looking to get any more money from the meters. We want not too much, not too little, just right. That's our goal. There's no intention on the meter end to recoup our costs, basically what we pay for the water.
This is a residential program. However, will this be a program that will extend to businesses in town?
Well, yes, all ratepayers. Yeah, it's be all ratepayers. So on the larger side, which is like the 2 to 3 inch, we're about at like 17% of that. So a little slower that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Council President.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, you had comments?
Again, just wanted to thank you for that in-depth presentation, and I think residents should also know that on top of being the director for the water utility, you are the director of the sewer utility and the director of the Department of Public Works. So it's a monumental task, and I think, as we can all see, somebody who's clearly up to date on all of those things. But I think Dan deserves a great round of applause, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for the information, and thank you for what you do.
Thank you, everybody.
All right. We're going to move on to our, since we have no ordinances for second reading, we're moving on to our report section. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Council President. First, I want to give and extend my best wishes for anybody in the township and in general who is celebrating Diwali today. I think that should be mentioned, and is the main reason that Councilman Dinesh Bahal is not here today. Also wanted to shout out a thank you to Robert Zuckerman, Mary Pan, and the entire staff of the East Brunswick Arts Coalition for running an extraordinarily great restaurant week this week. I hope that many have had an opportunity to stop and visit some of those restaurants. They are our pride and joy, and it's please, yes. And we want to show and continue to show that we support our East Brunswick businesses. I think it was a good weekend in general to be an East Brunswick resident. We had Saturday started out with Coffee with a Cop, which is an annual program that our East Brunswick Police Department sponsors every year, which gives the opportunity to the public to interact with our police. We had the Parks and Rec ran a scavenger hunt, which I think is the third year in a row that they were doing that. It's always different theme. One year it was parks. This year it was happened to be all the businesses that are part of our East Brunswick Chamber of Commerce. So families got an opportunity to follow clues and get an opportunity to visit some of the businesses, again, showing that we support our businesses in town, and share with some candy and good entertainment for each one of the stops that the kids got to go to. We also had Harvest Fest, as was mentioned earlier, which was out in the historic section of town. That was one of the original intentions of putting the East Brunswick Arts Coalition together. It was to raise funds to provide art and cultural and heritage type of opportunities that didn't depend on property taxes to support. We never really want good programs in town to go without being supported because we didn't have the money in the budget to do that. So their ability to raise those type of funds to continue to provide those programs to the township is one of the real reasons that whole organization got started. And I think they've done a good job of highlighting the historic section of town. I think most people didn't even realize it was there many years ago. Of course, it didn't help that the sign said, "Welcome to the historic section of Old Bridge." That was kind of kooky, but it is historically actually the Old Bridge section of the township, but it is East Brunswick. So we changed the sign and spent a lot of time trying to highlight programs in that area, and I think it was great. And then there was the Trunk and Treat program for Halloween that the Parks and Rec department put on at the Community Arts Center yesterday. And again, lots of families, despite a little bit of the rain. I know that Councilwoman Zimbicki was there, and then Councilwoman Sullivan. It was great, and it's an opportunity for the kids to go out and trick-or-treat in a safe way. I wanted to also thank Executive Director of the Redevelopment Agency, Mike Hughes, for his very good program and discussion here on redevelopment and pilot programs. I do believe that there has been a lot of misinformation in the community on what pilots actually are and why they are necessary and supportive of the projects that we need to do in town to turn around blighted properties that actually cause taxpayers money by letting it sit in the condition that it's in. So I want to thank him for clearing that up to those that don't understand how it actually works. And then if you do have an opportunity before you leave, there's copies of the new East Brunswick magazine in the back in the folders. I have some up here. That's something that, again, I want to thank Robert Zuckerman, our Economic Development Officer, because when we first did that a couple of years ago, it was a great opportunity for businesses to provide support for the magazine, and it highlighted the township. But in the last couple of years, there have been so many changes, good changes, that we needed to update it. And so you have free copies in the back, and if anybody has any interest in any others, let me know. I have some up here as well. And with that, that's my report. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Criscuolo, our business administrator?
Sure. Just a couple items. Once again, I'd like to thank Dan and his staff. If you ever go over to Public Works and see these gentlemen that are under his leadership work there, they're phenomenal. They got trucks taken apart, dump trucks, snow plows. Our true strength of this township are our employees. I can't say enough for everybody. The mayor alluded to the recreation department. Today, after very cold a couple of days we had. Sure enough, I went out to my car this afternoon, and all the tires were low on air pressure, which is a normal thing that occurs, and I rode over there. They're already working on salt machines and the boxes to make sure that they're prepared for that. So Dan always says, share the praise to his staff, and I hope you do that. People don't generally realize that we have people in the water plant 24/7. That means on Christmas, when you're home taking a shower, there's somebody in that plant making sure you get that Bobby Boucher might find quality H2O, right, from the water boy. But it really makes sense. On the way home today, I stopped at ShopRite to buy some distilled water, and they were out of it. And so I was gonna look down the shelf, because I know Dan was coming here, and water was $2.12 a gallon. Dan provides you, and his team provides that for a half a cent a gallon. That's phenomenal. His staff work extremely hard. They have a lot of pride in what we do. So to all the employees, from the people in collections to the people in the plant, and especially the gentlemen that are out fixing water main breaks in the winter, hats go off to them. They do a phenomenal job to provide this service to the community. It doesn't happen without a lot of work, and under Dan's stewardship, I couldn't be more delighted to work with Dan. I always learn something new every time Dan does a presentation. So, Dan, if you could just let your crew know, and the staff there, including the ladies that work in the office and the ladies that work in revenue, it's a team effort, and so we'd like to thank you for that. And a lot of times when we're out there, we don't see it because we're too close to it. I also wanted to report that on November 1st, PSE&G will begin paving the roads where they replaced a lot of the gas lines over in, on Tall Oaks and a couple other roads there. I put that up on the Township website. It's also, I believe, up on the Facebook page and has been sent out to publications. People in those areas will receive a door hanger on their door, and the night before, they'll receive a robocall to ensure that they're going to go in there and start milling and paving those roads. We did get a request through one of the mayor's town hall meetings in the president section of the town to lower the speed limit on Main Street and make it consistent. Last week when I was coming in, I noticed where it goes from 35, and when you get up near Coolidge and Garfield and stuff, it increases to 40. So I just wanted to let the council know that I've made a request to Middlesex County to take a look at that and to make it consistent all the way through East Brunswick. And that one little section, which is probably about a third of a mile, it just doesn't make sense to increase the speed limit to 40 there. I made a formal request to their transportation department and government affairs office, and hopefully I'll have a response for you by the next meeting on what their plans are to take a look at that particular area. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Prisculo. Mr. Baker, our township attorney?
No report this
No
evening,
report?
Council President.
Ms. Lawful, any report?
Just two items. So I just want to remind the public that early voting will begin this Saturday, October 29th, at the Community Arts Center. The polls will be open at 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday. And on Sundays, it will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. As it pertains to those who receive mail-in ballots, I do encourage that you fill them out and submit your mail-in ballot as soon as possible. We do have a mail-in ballot drop box conveniently located here within the municipal complex by the municipal court and the police station parking lot. Please submit your ballot there. It is a safe way of submitting your ballot. On a different note, I would like to inform residents who have furry pets that we have submitted notices for animal renewals for 2023. Please respond at your earliest convenience. Please do not delay to avoid any late fees. If there are any changes, updates that we need to make to our system, please advise us by giving us a call. And that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawful. Any council, committee, or board reports? No? All right, Ms. Lawful, will you please read the public comment statement?
Certainly. The public comment portion of our meeting is to allow the public to bring to the council's attention their concerns or comments. In accordance with NJSA 10:4-12A and the East Brunswick Rules of Council, the council asks the public to limit their comments to 5 minutes or less. The public may use this opportunity to question any item listed on the consent agenda and request that such item be removed from the consent agenda to be discussed and voted on separately. Only one member of the public should approach to speak to council at a time. The council will respect the public's time by refraining from any comment until the speaker has finished with their allotted time. It should be further noted that the public comment portion of our meeting is not structured as a question and answer session. At the conclusion of the statements or questions from a member of the public, the council president, at his discretion, may choose to respond or not respond, or to ask administration to respond. If the questions require more detailed responses, the council president or administration may ask a member of the public to make an appointment with the appropriate township official during regular business hours. The township clerk will regulate the time during the comment portion of our meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Lawful. At this time, anyone from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
Thomas Sharrow, 17 Harrison Avenue. Along with the mayor, I would like to wish everyone a safe and happy Diwali. I'd like to thank you for the review of Main Street and the submission of that. Gratefully appreciated as a resident of the President Street section that is impacted by that speed limit. I didn't come here tonight to be like sentimental, philosophical, or nostalgic at all. But then life happens. You have the birthday of a close friend, the death of a loved one, a milestone wedding anniversary. You know, sometimes you have both or a couple of those at the same time within a 24-hour period. And that got me thinking why, a lot of whys. Why did I choose the college I went to? Why did I choose my career? Why did I choose, with my wife, to move here to East Brunswick? And that's what I'd like to speak to a little bit tonight. Been a resident here for 22 years. And as a resident here for 22 years, I've seen change, a lot of change. You know, change can make people apprehensive. Change is necessary. Change can be good. Sometimes change itself is in need of a change in direction. And that's why I am definitely here tonight, to express my support for 4 East Brunswick residents: Dave Herrera, Neil Shaw, Antoinette Evola, and Joe Kincaid, running for East Brunswick Town Council. Those 4 residents, those 4 candidates, I believe will bring about that change in direction that is necessary and required. On November 8th, I encourage my fellow residents to vote column A. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion.
Are you in Jim White's class?
Oh,
Yeah.
all right,
For Jim White students only.
Yeah, Jim, yeah. She did, I'm sure she didn't know.
yeah. You want to come on up? I'll reopen the
For
public
those who
portion.
don't understand, if I may, Council President, for those who don't understand this Jim White being thrown off the dais, Jim White was for, let's say, 25, 30 years our business administrator, and then Jim retired. Jim now teaches part-time over at Rutgers University, and Jim sends his students over to the meetings to get a feel for the governance of our municipal system. And so we do have, I think, 3 guests who might be stepping up to the microphone in this order. Thank you, Council President.
Okay. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Dina Badway, and I live in 1516 Village Drive. It's in Woodbridge. My question is more directed to Mike Hughes. I found the redevelopment plan really interesting, and it serves like it's something good for the community. However, let's say there's an issue with contracting or something arises, pops up. What happens to the redevelopment? Does it stay? Because you mentioned it's like 10, 15 years or so of nothing going on in that area. What happens then if there's an issue?
Mike, is there anyone else from Mr. White's class that wants to get up and speak?
Actually, I also have.
Okay. After we close the public portion, Mike will get up and respond.
Okay.
Good evening. My question was just...
Name and address for
Oh,
the
sorry.
record.
Laura
Name-
Bing, 325 Lincoln Avenue. And my question was just, what do you anticipate the long-term effects for the vision of the pilot agreement, and how will that directly affect the citizens of East Brunswick?
Thank you. Good. All right. All right, now we're closing the public portion unless there's anyone else from Mr. White's class that wants to speak. What? All right, anyone else want to speak? Yeah.
First of all, Vern Whitlock, 694 Old Bridge Turnpike. We all know the Township of East Brunswick. I would like to thank the Township, the Arts Coalition, for bringing a vibrant Harvest Fest this past Saturday to the historic district. It shows that our town council and our mayor and our coalition really cares about the past as they do the future. November 8th is right around the corner, so Madam Clerk and to your Deputy Clerk, I wish you the best of luck.
My elections are always very successful. I'm not concerned.
I'm just giving you the luck. Last thing to say before the election comes around, because this is the last meeting for the election. God bless the County of Middlesex, and God bless our current council and mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Vern. Anyone else from the public? Yes, Ms. Winston.
Good evening, Council. I'm Dana Winston, 44 Fresh Ponds Road. I'd like to commend you on the proclamation for the EB Arts Coalition. As you know, I was a founding member along with Marla Kamens, and when we both stepped down a few years ago, we could not imagine the scope and magnitude of the initiatives that they are producing at this time. And we watch proudly from the sidelines now and are amazed at their creativity, dedication, and their hard work. And each member is a shining example of what volunteerism should be, and their collaboration with each other produces stellar results. Volunteerism in this town is critical to our success. As Mayor Cohen mentioned, when we have entities that create these events for our town without tapping our tax base, that is a wonderful thing. And when you honor these volunteers, these unpaid people, these residents who stepped up selflessly to dedicate their time and their energy and their talent for free, you honor everybody in this town who has stepped up and done that. So thank you very much. One more thing, former Councilman Hughes, thank you for that very comprehensive and intelligent report. Anytime we show the residents more information and explain processes to them, I think it's good. I think we should do it all the time and do more of it. And Mr. Losick, you as well. That was a great presentation, and thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Yes, sir.
I got it, 20 Brook Hill Road. I wasn't intending to speak, but just wanted to appreciate Mr. Losick. I had the distinct pleasure of listening to his conversation or his presentation 2 times in 4 days. Thank you very much. I enjoyed it, and he knows that because I asked him a lot of questions last time. The reason for me walking up here is to appreciate, I do not know who Professor White is, but I do appreciate that initiative. I have a master's degree in political science myself, so I appreciate any instructor / professor / lecturer sending their students, for lack of a better word, field trip. These are very experiential learnings, so I appreciate your professor. Please pass on my appreciation. Thank you very much, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'll close the public portion again. Mr. Hughes, you want to get up and try to answer some of the questions?
Sure, I was going to try to get up right away after the words of praise from Dana Winston over there, but I'll accept after the words of praise for Dan Losick. Contract disputes, so bound to happen in any project that we undertake as a municipality, whether it's paving roads or whether it's a redevelopment project. Contract disputes happen. I can say I think we have very strong agreements in place with developers as part of the redevelopment process throughout that govern how we deal with different disputes. But more than that, we undertake any redevelopment process where we designate a master redeveloper in the spirit of partnership. So before it gets to a point where it's a dispute, we have regular conversations, regular check-ins, progress reports. So I would be very, very surprised if we're caught flat-footed somewhere in the process. It takes communication. It takes really digging into the details, and each step of the process we're aware of before it even occurs. So that's number one in terms of disputes. The second, the long-term implications of the pilot agreement, I think, are quite positive. I think new revenues are going to be created. Ideally, I have every reason to believe that the projects will be successful. And with that, hopefully that momentum that we harness from a very successful $500 million redevelopment project can apply to other areas of the municipality. I think it provides funding sources to innovate. I think the Township Council and the governing body will be able to fund programs and partnerships they may otherwise not be able to fund because, ideally, budgeting is a game of priorities, and it's a zero-sum game, and if I take money here, it's got to go away from somewhere. Establishing a new revenue stream into the township is a positive and is going to lead to new partnerships, programs, and really allow the township to innovate and really be creative and get to see some really new things come to the township that I think everybody wants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our consent agenda. Does anyone on council want anything separated from the consent? Seeing none?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, 17,522.
Okay. Can I get a motion for consent items 17,523 through 17,529?
So moved.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Can we get a second?
Second.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Ms. Lawful, will you please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right, the item we had separated was resolution number 17522, a resolution authorizing Winter Wonder Lights LLC to hold a Christmas lights display at the Middlesex County Fairgrounds from November 25th, 2022 to January 1st, 2023. Can we get a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Council Vice President. Ms. Sullivan, discussion?
I just know last year we had traffic guards or police people in order. I just want to make sure that we're having all that.
We're going to have, they're required to bring in traffic control, correct?
I believe the applicant is here as well, and he's saying yes. I see him.
Yes? Okay.
I just want to make sure. I just wanted to make sure because I know last year, remember? Okay. All right.
All right, thank you. So we got a motion and a second. Can we please call the roll?
Councilman McAvoy?
Yes.
Councilwoman Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilwoman Zambicki?
Yes.
And Council President Wendell?
Yes.
Thank you all.
All right. We're going to move on to the good of the cause. Anyone have anything for the good of the cause tonight?
I do, Council
Yes.
President.
Vice President.
May I?
Yes, please.
A shout out of congratulations to our high school girls soccer team for winning the GMC tournament. A further shout out to our girls field hockey team that won the GMC tournament. And both programs will be advancing in the Central New Jersey Group 4 NJSIAA tournament. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just a quick question to the clerk. Just want to clarify the hours for early voting. Is it 10 to?
Yes, so it'll be at the Community Arts Center. It begins this Saturday at, once again, the Community Arts Center. It's from 10 a.m. through 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday. And on Sundays, it will be from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Okay.
So once again, that's from the 29th through November 6th.
And will we have any signs on Cranberry Road like we've done in the past for early voting?
Well, early voting is really conducted by the county, so they will handle all of the signage.
Okay. Just checking. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else?
Yes.
Councilwoman?
Yep, thank you. So, listening tonight, I heard a couple things that struck me, something about change and reflection. And certainly, sitting here for the short time that I've been here since February, lots of thought about change and reflection. Listening to family stories talking about Riders Lane when it was just a dirt road, and the grocery store was Domino's, where the center of the state is now, right? Not having schools in our community, not having recreation like we do. We've had a lot of change. We certainly have. And I think it's appropriate tonight that we also did a proclamation for Extra Mile Day. Go the extra mile. Do a little something extra. Be a part of your community. Give a little something. And when you look at everything that we've done, and I sat here and thought about this and reflected tonight, I am so proud of the work we do in East Brunswick. I'm proud of the Arts Coalition being a new coalition that was formed. I'm proud of the East Brunswick Public Library and the fact that we are really on the cusp of something that is really unheard of. As Mayor Cohen talked about, this will be amazing if we win that award. We had the great presentation about our water utility with the history, which I love that as a history person, looking at the history of our water, what the infrastructure, the money we've put into the infrastructure, the grants that we received for infrastructure. We had the fantastic presentation from Mike Hughes, a former councilman and now the executive officer on the redevelopment committee, who talked about blighted properties in East Brunswick and how we are looking to change in the best way possible, making smart use of money, smart use of what we're doing. Hey, when I talk to my kids and say, well, you know, up where the whiz was, they have no idea what the whiz was. It's beyond their, and going to be 26 years old. So we had our coffee with a cop, which celebrates our East Brunswick wonderful police force that we have, and we also had the Guns and Hoses, right, last weekend, where we also honored our fire department. The scavenger hunt, which is new, that honors the hundreds of businesses that have come into town. That was a great thing, focusing on the businesses this time. The Harvest Fest we talked about. We just approved purchasing a passenger bus for our Department of Aging. I think we think of everybody in this town. I think we do a really, really good job of thinking about everybody and honoring change in the most positive way possible. Everybody that is part of that, is not doing it for their self-interest, is truly doing it for the love of the town. And that's my reflection on change. And I'm proud to be a part of this council, but most proudly, I am to be a citizen and a community member of our wonderful East Brunswick.
Well done. Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none, can we get a motion to adjourn? So moved. Motion by Council Vice President. Can we get a second?
Second.
Everybody, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. Thank you. Good night.